You don't work a job. You rent your soul. Now, let me paint you a picture. It's Monday morning, 5:47 a.m. The alarm screams and my hand sort of slaps at silent, but my body stays frozen. 3 more minutes, I tell myself, just 3 more minutes before I have to become someone else. And that's what it is, isn't it? The person who drags himself into that office, it isn't me. It's for foremost the costume I wear, the character I play in someone else's story. I commute in silence, 43 minutes of stop-and-go traffic, watching the sunrise through a dirty windshield while podcasts about productivity buzz in my ears. It's sort of ironic, really. Learning how to optimize a life that I don't even want. And then I'm at my desk. Fluorescent lights hum overhead and the same stale coffee smell. The same forced small talk. How was your weekend, they ask, and I sort of lie. Because the truth is that I spent Sunday night with a knot in my stomach, dreading this exact moment. It isn't appropriate for the break room, you know? Hours blur into numbers, tasks pile onto tasks, meetings about meetings, reports that no one reads, emails that could have been not sent. And somewhere between the morning stand-up and the afternoon Zoom call, I realized something very terrifying. I can't remember the last time I felt fully alive during work hours. And by the time I get home, every part of me is just drained. But it's not physical exhaustion. You know, I've been sitting all day. It's something much deeper, something spiritual, you know, like my essence has been dropped and like drop for drop to fuel someone else's machine. And here's the brutal part that keeps me up at night. That exhaustion, it isn't the price I pay with my paycheck. That exhaustion is the paycheck. My real payment isn't the direct deposit that hits every 2 weeks, or actually it's 1 month here in Sweden. It's everything I give up to earn it. My time, my energy, my thoughts, my movements, my presence, my loyalty, and ultimately my silence. If your job owns those things, it's not employment, it's tenancy. You're not an employee, you're a tenant. And the property you're renting out, it isn't an apartment, it's yourself. No, and by the way, if this kind of perspective makes you think differently about money and work, subscribe now. This is just the start. So there is sort of like a hidden contract. Most think that they're trading time for money. 8 hours per day it's like a pays day, right? 40 hours a week, salary. Simple math, right? Most people think that they're trading time for money. You know, it's 8 hours for a day's pay, 40 hours per week for a week's salary. It's simple math, right? But I think it's kind of wrong to think this way because we're trading sovereignty for survival. And when you clock in, you're not just agreeing to work, you're agreeing to hand over control of your existence. You're signing an invisible lease. One that nobody reads because society told us that this is normal. This is safe, this is responsible, this is what grown-ups do. Let me just break this down, what you actually sign away. Your time? No, it's not just the hours at your desk. Add the commute, the mental preparation, the decompression time when you get home, the Sunday scaries, the emails you check after hours just to stay on top of things. That's not 8 hours, that's 12, 14, sometimes 16 hours of your day, revolving around a job that would replace you within a week if you drop dead. And your body, you're like, your body. You need permission to eat, for crying out loud, to use the bathroom, to stand up and stretch, to step outside for air. Your body operates on their schedule, not its biological rhythms. You eat lunch when they say lunch happens, even if you're not hungry. You hold your bladder during meetings. You sit under lights that give you headaches. You breathe recycled air that makes you tired. Your mind, the best hours of your cognitive function, those precious morning hours when your brain is the sharpest, belongs to someone else's priorities, their goals, their metrics, their vision. Meanwhile, your own dream, your own ideas, your own creative spark, that gets the leftovers, the scraps, the 9 p.m. exhaustion zone where you're too drained to do anything but scroll, and your emotions, you perform happiness, enthusiasm, engagement, even when you're screaming inside. You smile in meetings. You say, "Great question," when it's the 5th time this week someone has asked the same thing. You pretend to care about initiatives that you know will be abandoned in 3 months. Emotional labor isn't the job description, but it's the most expensive thing you provide, your identity. You become corporate you, a sanitized version. You police your language, your humor, your opinions. You wear the right clothes. You adapt the right posture. You learn the right phrases, circle back, synergize, move the needle, words that mean nothing, spoken by a version of yourselves that feels like a hologram. And here's what kills me. Most of us sign this lease without negotiation, without reading the terms, because we're terrified of the alternative. To be honest about what the alternative is, it's not homelessness, it's not starvation, it's discomfort, it's uncertainty, it's the possibility that we might have to live differently than we're told to live. And for most people, that possibility is scarier than renting out their soul. The illusion of safety, we're told employment equals security. A steady paycheck, it means stability. Benefits mean you're being taken care of, but it's a con. Your job isn't safe, You're just one restructure, one budget cut, one strategic pivot away from being shown the door with a cardboard box and an NDA. And I've seen it happen to so many people who give 20 years or more, people who sacrifice their health, their marriages, their time with their kids for loyalty that evaporated in a Tuesday morning conference room. And the 401k, that's not security, that's a bribe to stay put, a golden handcuff counting on the fact that you're too scared to walk away from vested benefits. That health insurance, it's not care, it's control. You can't leave because your kid has asthma, because your wife is pregnant, because you have a pre-existing condition. They know about it, you know it, and that knowledge becomes a leash. Safety is the illusion. A paycheck is not a paycheck for your labor. It's a bribe to forget that you're being owned. Okay, so the deal looks clean on paper. A paycheck every 2 weeks or every month, benefits, paid time off, maybe even casual Fridays. In exchange, just 40 hours, just a small piece of your week, but it's a lie. Because the real cost, that isn't measured in hours, it's measured in what those hours take from you. It's a slow bleed that happens so gradually that you don't notice it until you're anemic, until you're a shell. Your creativity dies first. Not all at once, of course. That would be too obvious. It happens in small moments. You have an idea in a meeting, but you bite your tongue because you know it will be shot down. You have a better way of doing something. You stick with the process because that's how we've always done it. You have a spark of innovation and watch it get smothered under 17 layers of approval. Eventually, you just stop having ideas because it's much easier that way. It's safer and the muscle just dies, Your energy collapses next because now you're too tired in ways that sleep can't fix. 10 hours of sleep and you wake up exhausted. Explain that to me. Not because your body needs rest, but because your soul, it needs freedom. You're running on empty because someone else has been sort of emptying your tank. Every pointless meeting, every bullshit email, it's not just wasting your time, it's draining your life force. Your integrity bends. You say things that you don't believe. You enforce policies you think are stupid. You smile at people you don't respect. You pretend the company's mission matters to you when you know that it's just about profit. Now, these are like small compromises at first, tiny betrayals of your values, but over time they add up. And one day you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person looking back. Your health suffers, your back hurts from that lousy chair, and your eyes burn from the screens. Your gut is a mess from stress and eating lunch at your desk. You're on medication for anxiety, for sleep, for blood pressure. Your doctor will tell you that you need to reduce stress, but you can't because reducing stress means losing the income. So you manage the symptoms and ignore the cause. Your relationships fracture. You're physically present but mentally absent. Your partner tries to talk to you about their day and you sort of nod while thinking about tomorrow's deadline. Your kids want to play, but you're too tired, too checked out. Your friends invite you out, but you cancel because you just can't. You can't pretend to be social. You can't pretend to have energy. And you can't pretend that you're okay. And that's the real price of stability. That's why you're exhausted on a level that sleep, coffee, or vacation days can't touch. Now, I know this intimately, painfully even. I work as a consultant, which sounds impressive until you realize it actually just means that I'm a professional meeting attender, a PowerPoint performer, a person who nods thoughtfully while executives describe problems they won't actually let me solve. Most days, I spend hours in sterile conference rooms with bad coffee and worse ideas, and we talk about KPIs that mean absolutely nothing. It's just fluff that no one actually needs. Strategic initiatives that will be abandoned before implementations. And I watch the clock all the time. I take notes I'll never read. I say things like, let's take this offline, and I'll loop you in, and I die a little inside every time. But here's my secret rebellion. Every lunch break, I sneak outside, usually with my drone. 10 minutes, sometimes 15 if I'm lucky. I find an empty field or parking lot, and I launch that little machine into the air for those precious moments, Because when I'm flying, I'm creating, I feel free. I'm doing something that's mine, not a client's, not a stakeholder's, not a manager's, just mine. And those 10 minutes feel more real, more alive, more true than the entire 8-hour workday surrounding them. It's the only time I'm not performing, not pretending, not renting out. And when I come back inside, when I sit back at that conference table, when I open my laptop and I paste on my professional face, the contrast is just devastating because now I know the difference. I've tasted freedom and it makes the cage that much more obvious. And when I collapse at home later, my wife asks if I'm okay, and I say I'm fine, just tired from work. But that's not it. You see, I'm never tired from work. I'm tired from being rented out, from spending 8 hours existing as someone else's asset, from giving the best parts of my day, my energy, my mind to something I don't believe in. That kind of tired doesn't go away with rest. It goes away with revolution. So how do you know if you've signed the lease? How do you know if you're living as a tenant in your own life? Well, you can look for these signs. You can't choose when to eat, move, or speak. Your body runs on their schedule. Your voice requires permission. Your creativity flows upward. Every good idea you have enriches someone else's bottom line. You're the source, they're the beneficiary. You feel exhausted even after rest. Physical recovery doesn't help because the wound is sort of spiritual. You're told to be grateful for scraps, for pizza parties instead of raises, for exposure instead of equity, for the opportunity to work late. You daydream about escape more than you plan for success. Your fantasies aren't about promotion, they're about disappearance. You stop talking about your dreams because it hurts too much to acknowledge how far away they are. Does this sound familiar? That's not a career. That's not even a bad job. That's a rental agreement. And the landlord doesn't just own your time. They own you. So here's what nobody wants to hear. Breaking free, it isn't about bravery. It's not about motivation or inspiration or watching enough YouTube videos until you feel pumped up. It's about honesty. Brutal, uncomfortable, terrifying honesty. You have to ask yourself questions that most people avoid their entire lives. How much of myself am I renting out? For how long have I been doing this? To whom am I giving away my sovereignty? And is it worth the price? Not, can I afford to quit, or what will people think? But is this trade for, my soul for their security actually worth it? And if the answer is no, you don't need a raise, you don't need a new manager, you don't need a lateral move or a promotion or a different department. You need a revolution. Now, I want to be clear about something. I'm not speaking from the finish line. I'm not some success story who quit his job and now makes millions doing what I love, although I wish that was the case. I'm not going to lie to you and pretend that I figured everything out. I still have mortgages. I still have loans and responsibilities, a family that depends on my income. I haven't quit the 9-to-5 yet, but I've started something. I've started building my own business around my passion, making videos like this, telling stories that matter, creating content that comes from somewhere real, not from a client brief or a stakeholder deck. And the difference is night and day, because you see, at work, I'm rented. I'm an asset on someone else's balance sheet, a resource to be allocated, a cost to be managed. But here, I own myself. You see, every frame I shoot, every edit I make, every story I tell, it's all mine. It's not a landlord's, not a boss's, not a client's, it's mine. Now, does it pay to pay the bills yet? No. Is it scary? Absolutely. Do I sometimes wonder if I'm delusional for trying every single day? But here's what I know. This exhaustion, the exhaustion from, building something that's mine, it feels completely different than the exhaustion from being rented out. This is good tired, the earned tired, the tired that comes from creating, not being consumed. And I'd rather be exhausted from building my own dream than being well-rested in someone else's cage. You see, most people think that freedom is choosing between two jobs or climbing the career ladder or getting the corner office. A lot of people love that corner office, or working remotely instead of in person. But that's not freedom. That's picking your landlord. I think that real freedom, it isn't about career paths or compensation packages or workplace flexibility. It's about ownership, owning your own time. And I mean all of it, not just the scraps after work, owning your thoughts, using your mind for your purposes, not theirs, owning your creativity, building your vision, not executing theirs. Owning your energy, investing it where you choose. Owning your identity, being yourself fully without performance. Owning your life without a landlord. No lease, no leash. That's what I'm fighting for. That's why I make these videos. That's why I spend my nights editing when I'm exhausted. That's why I pour my real self into this instead of saving it all for the job that rents me. Because I've decided something. Starving for a season beats being owned for a lifetime. I'd rather risk failure doing something that's mine than guarantee success doing something that's theirs. I'd rather be broke and sovereign than being comfortable and owned. And if you're still here, still watching, I think that maybe you feel the same way. The lease is optional. You signed it, sure, but you can break it. It won't be easy. It won't be quick. It might cost you things you thought you needed, but staying costs even more. Start asking honest questions. Start building something that's yours. Start reclaiming the pieces of yourself that you've been renting out. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start. As always, thank you for listening. Do me a favor and tap that like button to show your support. Subscribe if you want more content like this. We'll talk about escaping the system that wants to own you. Until next time, stay hungry, relentless, and strong in your journey of escaping wage slavery. Bye.